I was sold like cattle. Now monsters are bidding for my blood, Stella. This name has become almost synonymous with scandal in aristocratic circles. My mother died in despair. The only boy I ever loved betrayed me in the most cruel way. After that, I swore I would never beg for love from anyone again. I used all means to struggle to win a little reputation, some money, and a little hard-earned freedom for myself in that dirty society. However, just when I thought I was finally in control of my own destiny, my family pushed me into an elaborate nightmare. It was a supernatural auction. A kingdom ruled by WerewolfRomance, a man who bought me as his property, Ethan, Alpha of the Winter Crown. A fearsome ruler of the werewolf kingdom, he is also the supreme alpha of the Black Onyx Alliance. His throne is soaked in blood, he has a broken past and a missing sister. But I'm not an ordinary girl, I bear the emblem of Moon, a mark that could save or destroy them all. When Gustav Volkov, an alpha with the same cursed blood as mine, came to claim his kinship, Ethan gave me a choice: or sign a blood oath marriage with him for protection, or be torn to pieces by the werewolf law. However, this marriage of convenience soon became more complicated. As enemies battle, conspiracies weave, and legacies burn, and the attraction of taboo is ignited, marriage of convenience becomes anything but convenient. But Ethan, I used to know, refused to accept defeat because he once knew my body and now wanted my soul. Chapter 1. Prologue. I'm 7 dility of fact to them. She's not breathing, please, I yelled, as if they didn't already know. I looked down at her pale, bloodied face and her head that had caved in. Please stay with me. My voice was no longer my own, ragged, hoarse with horror. My clothes were still wet with blood, her blood. The metallic stench tangling with the antiseptic burn of the hospital. The stretcher wheeled down the white, sterile hallway like a bloodied coffin on wheels. I pushed along with the paramedics, my heart thudding like a war drum in my chest. Please, please, keep your eyes open. My lips trembled as I touched her face. I am begging you, I cried, tears flowing down my bloodied, swollen face. But I could not register the pain. We reached the urgent care, the door flying open. They ripped her out of my hands. I caught sight of her crushed leg, and I could hear the horrible screeching of the wheels of the car as it tried and failed to come to a stop. But it was too late. I grabbed chunks of my hair, screaming where I sat in the hallway. I had just stood there, too stunned to move out of its path, too stupid to run, too filled with pain to save my own worthless life. But my mum, I squeezed my eyes shut, and I could still feel her hand on my back as she pushed me. It all happened in a flash, too fast for me to comprehend. The sickening thud of the impact, crunch of breaking bones. My sobs came in waves as grief and guilt gripped me hard enough for my spine to crack. It was choking, violent, and body-racking. I wrapped my arms around myself, having to physically hold myself together. The whole world spun along while mine had fractured. I was now left in the rubble. It should have been me, especially after what I found this night right after I blew out the candles on my 18th birthday cake. The first cake they ever gave me. I should have known. There was a catch. It came with a price. It was the truth about why they all seemed to despise my existence. The reason I was the stain that refused to fade no matter how much they wanted me to. A shadow beside their golden children. The one they looked upon like filth. I understood now, and the truth was more monstrous than anything I could have conjured up in my mind. Searing pain exploded on my cheek, my head snapping so far to the side that I could have sworn I heard something crack. The overpowering scent of perfume welcomed me to the reality that I had anticipated. You won, Aunt Agnes screeched as her face came into focus despite the tears that blurred my vision. Her face distorted with loathing so visceral I could smell it tangle with her overpowering perfume. You finally achieved your evil mission, you fucking parasite. You took her from us. I looked up at her, eyes flared wide in a glare that pierced my soul. You failed the first time, but you had to try again. I was right about you from the beginning. You are a curse, the bane of this family, a fucking disease. My eyes were too swollen, tongue too heavy to argue as she rained the insults like she always did when she got the chance, but this time with more venom. My family had filled the hallway, some crying, others pale from worry, some pacing but all having the same expression as they looked at me. Disgust. Like I was the rot in the room, the virus that had infected this night, this blood, this pain. No one asked if I was okay. No one checked the swelling in my face or the bruises blooming like violets on my arms. Their grief wasn't shared with me, it was weaponized against me. Yet, you dare to wonder. Charlotte's voice whipped like a lash to my bare back. Why we fucking wish you would die. her olive skin flushed with a fury that I should have been used to. I blinked at her, not saying a word. Mum was fighting for life, and I was not about to pretend that their words were not justified. Charlotte grabbed the collar of my dress, yanking my face to hers. "Can't you fucking talk?" she growled. "We finally throw a whining bitch like you a party even after everything." She shook me, hard enough to make my bones rattle. Yet, I stared back blankly into hard amber eyes. She was pulled back, probably because the nurse started giving us looks, our beautifully dysfunctional mess of a family as they tore into the black sheep. Charlotte tried to lunge for me, but my elder brother was able to pull her back. But I knew better than to think I was saved. Ajax's towering frame loomed above me as soon as Aunt Agnes had Charlotte in her arms. I could feel the pulsing of anger as his eyes bore into me, hot enough to pierce. I didn't say anything for a moment. He did not need to. I could read him, in the way his nose flared, veins pulsing in his neck, brows so low they might as well have kissed his lashes. I did not need to glance down to know his hands would be clenched into fists. His body vibrated with barely reined anger, knowing he was seconds away from making me a punching bag. Again, and I knew no one would be able to stop him. No one would. It was not like they ever did so in the past, but this was a public place, so when the spit hit me in the eye, I still was not surprised. I didn't even flinch, didn't wipe it off, didn't speak. How dare I? Mum was in this place because of me. I just sat there, blinking through the sting as spit and tears mixed on my face. The metallic scent of blood still clinging to me like a second skin, the silence inside me louder than the chaos around me. Then I laughed. The foreign, wrong sound bubbled up my throat, spilling out like some cruel melody. I could not stop it, too wrung out, too shattered to be rational in my response to the situation. It wasn't even hysteria. It was something far more ugly, more twisted. Everyone went still, even a young nurse in the corner that had been pretending not to listen. I slapped my hand over my mouth, but the sound bounced off the sterile walls that seemed to be closing in. The sounds kept coming, half sob, half laughter. My sanity splitting at the seams, unraveling like the yarn of an old, worn sweater. "You know," I said, tilting my head like I was giving them a tip, "if you hated me this much, you could have just left me at the hospital the day I was born. Or better yet, tossed me in a bin behind it. Save you the trouble of pretending I was ever part of the family." A few of them froze. I chuckled, bitter and breathless. "But no, you kept me around like a family pet that bites. Then you act surprised every time I shit on the carpet." There was stunned silence before my brother's snarl shattered the quiet. "So this was some type of sick revenge after all? Because we finally deemed it time to tell you the truth?" He took a menacing step towards me. "You had to get back at the family who fed and clothed you?" His fist went up, and I smiled, closing my eyes, waiting for the impact, wondering which tooth I'd lose this time around. I never heard it land. Crack. My eyes flew open just in time to see Ajax's arm wrenched midair, his fist frozen just inches from my face. A hand large, veined, and vice-like had caught his wrist. Caesar. He'd come out of nowhere, like a shadow. 1 second, it was just venom and violence in the hallway. The next, he was standing between me and the blow meant to knock the life out of me. "You lay one more fucking hand on her." Caesar's voice was low, venomous, barely controlled. "And I will break every bone in your arm. Then I'll start on the other." Ajax growled, trying to yank himself free, but Caesar didn't budge. If anything, he twisted harder. A sickening pop echoed as Ajax's knees buckled with a cry. "Let go of me." "You first." He flung Ajax's arm to the side like it was trash. My brother stumbled back, clutching his shoulder in pain, but Caesar didn't even look at him again. His eyes, those familiar, infuriatingly green eyes, were locked on me now. "I am so sorry. I couldn't make it, Lily." His warm hand came down to cradle my jaw. He retrieved a little box, his eyes hopeful and regretful. "I got you your birthday present." He stroked my cheek, softly like I was the most fragile thing in the world. "Sar," I muttered, my voice cracking as the dam broke. His expression softened more, worry etched in the features of the boy I loved. "What happened? You are hurt. What?" "She murdered our mother," Charlotte screamed, her voice threatening to shatter glass. "You need to leave this instant." A gruff, annoyed voice that belonged to the hospital security cut her next words short. "My mother. Only one family member is allowed to stay." He cut her off. "We will be leaving," Caesar said, helping me up, but I shook my head. "Mum was in an accident. She is." Caesar stroked my back. "These people will not let you stay." His voice reeked of disdain. "I will take care of you. Your mum would understand, he assured. I searched his face for the fear that seemed to fill every corner of mine but found none. I can't leave her, I rasped, my words scraping through my throat. If she dies, and I am not here. She won't. His hand tightened on mine. You hear me? Iris is too damn strong. And you're going to walk out of this hospital on your feet, not curled up like roadkill in front of those animals. We will sleep over at the parking lot, in my car. I swallowed hard, glancing back at the closed room where they were still trying to save Mum, but I knew I had to leave. We had already caused more than a scene. Behind us, Charlotte and the rest of them kept hurling words like knives, but the nurse had finally stepped in to push her back. We stepped out into the frigid night air and headed towards the red car I knew was Caesar's. My limbs were heavy, my body rattling with nerves as he guided me. I took a breather as I rested on the car, my head spinning, the odor of blood clinging to me like chains. I looked back at the hospital as my family filed out as well. They all glowered at me. I looked away. My eyes fell on the leaning figure. My heart crashed against my ribs, my breath fracturing. Caesar was kneeling, the light from the hospital reflecting of the gem of the ring in the box he was holding out to me. Stella, Althea. Stella, will you? Caesar, I breathed his name. My mum was fighting for her life. I was not what I was, and now my boyfriend of 2 years was. Be mine to protect. His voice quivered, waving like emotions were taking a hold of him. I blinked at him, at this boy who had always made me laugh after every birthday party that wasn't celebrated, after every beating session by my brother, stopped the bullies when Charlotte spread a nasty rumors. The man who I gave my kidney, yet it did not hold a candle to all he had done for me. I loved him so much it hurt to breath. Still, all I think was, why here? Why now? My vision blurred at the ring, caught the light again, a tiny flare in all the gloom. My mother's situation weighed me down like an anvil in water. I could not think about. I know it's insane, he muttered gently, those jade eyes arresting mine in the dim light of the parking lot. I know you are overwhelmed and scared, but this is a promise ring. I made it for today, partly because I am sure that they will kick you out as soon as they can. He didn't have to glance behind me to tell me who he was talking about. You made this. My voice cracked. He smiled genuinely then. Yeah, melted my grandma's old pendant and she gave me a gem for it. My lips quivered, words too scarce to find as he went on. You want you to let me protect you. I want you see the ring on your finger and know you are never alone. I crumpled, but before I could hit the pavement, he had his arms wrapped around me. I leaned into him as he slipped on the ring. Happy birthday, Lily, he whispered, before planting a kiss on my forehead. It was in an instant. I heard it a nanosecond before the object made impact with the back of my head. My hand snapped back and grabbed it just as it grazed my head. The muscle in my hand flexed in a spasm around the object, crushing it into dust. The dust rained down over my shoulders. A brick. Someone had thrown a brick at me. Caesar spun around with a growl, his arm snapping out as he searched the shadows. Rage coiled in every taut muscle of his body. Who the hell? Charlotte stood there, her eyes the size of saucers, her eyebrows disappearing into her hairline as she stared at me. How? She croaked. Real mature, Caesar said snidely before taking my hand to examine the damage. I zoned out, the ringing in the ears intensifying as his words to soothe faded. I heard a click and another, and my eyes focused, meeting Jade once filled with surprise. His words tuned in and I could hear him again as the ringing subsided. When did you get a tattoo? He asked, holding my wrists. I looked down at what he was referring to. My eyes widened, heart rate kicking up again for the 100th time today. He was not joking. On my wrist was a marking, a crescent moon. Chapter 2, Not Today. Parasites ACT 1, the crescent phase. The moon has 5 phases. The crescent is the omen, a silver sliver of awakening, where destiny begins to stir beneath the skin but dares not roar. Ymir, the moonblind seer of Nightbanus. This marks the 3rd student reported missing from North Vale's Lunar Path Research Lab in just 2 weeks. Authorities say all students were last seen near the edge of the old forest bordering the restricted meteor site, also known as the Shimmer Grove by locals. Maybe, just maybe, letting undergrads wander into moon-juiced murder groves was a bad idea. But hey, what do I know? The missing have now been found disoriented, weak, and severely dehydrated. All were located within a 5-mile radius of one another, lying in circles of scorched earth under full moonlight. None recall how they got there. And stranger still, their stories are identical. The audio cut to the voice of a rescued student. The veil is breathing. The stars are watching. The moon is bleeding. And he will come crowned in smoke and hunger. He comes for her. She is his, or so he thinks. The hairs on my arms sprang up and I froze, stomach turning. My wrist started to itch. Again, but I preferred to ignore the tattoo I never remembered getting, but still I could not ignore it. After 2 years, it was like a pull. I flipped my hand over to inspect the mark, a precise black crescent on the inside of my wrist. I ignored the fact that it felt like it was pulsing, like a heartbeat, or worse, that it had synced to mine. I dropped my hand, pulling my hood lower over my head. I picked up the pace. I let the news drone on about the disappearances, trying to distract myself. The tone of the news switched from the solemn dirge to something upbeat as they switched to the sports segment. In other news, this one good. We have a top scorer in our humble town for the first time since Chad Smith of the Underdogs scored 7 goals to gold in 1998. Now, we have a new champion in town. None other than resident golden-eyed forerunner, Stella. Top academic, record-breaking forward, and the first player in Northvale history to score 10 goals in a single regional final. I stopped walking. Not because I was flattered, but because I knew what was coming. Her game-winning goal, described by commentators as gravity-defying, has gone viral overnight, drawing attention from scouts and sponsors alike. The mayor's office, along with the Northvale Academic Committee, has awarded her a combined prize of $1 million. Ah, there it was. The $1 million mark. Cue the Sharks. In a heartfelt speech after the match, Stella thanked her coach, her team, and her late mother for believing in her. That part was true. Coach helped me crawl through hell. My team tolerated me just enough to pass me the ball. And my mom? She was the only reason I didn't self-destruct long ago. I still had my share of her ashes, the one I had fought tooth and nail for. I would spread her ashes in the most beautiful beach in the world. When asked how she stayed motivated, Stella smiled and said, "Poverty." The reporter chuckled awkwardly. A true icon of modern resilience. I winced. They played the clip again. Stella is set to be honored at the Moonlight Hall next weekend, with full town sponsorship. Local businesses have already begun campaigning to feature her in their Lunarfest promotions. One shopkeeper even described her as the pride of North Vale, a force to be reckoned with. A force, huh? If only they knew. I smiled then, wary because I knew the vultures would soon come to dine. I took a turn on my street, and I already sighted my little apartment in the distance. As cramped as it had been since I moved there after I was kicked out, it was my abode, simply mine. No one in my family had come here since I moved out, to see me or anything else. I saw Charlotte, that one time I would prefer to never remember. My gut twisted like it always did. But since I killed the breadwinner, I needed to step up. Their words. It was the only way they had given me my portion of my mother's ashes, working 2 jobs with school and practice to make sure I send a monthly upkeep. Thank goodness for the tutoring sessions. Turned out that rich parents were quite generous when you were holding their kids' academic record by the balls. I adjusted my duffel bag on my shoulders, already drooling at the thought of the frozen dumplings in the fridge. It was on its way to tasting like wet cardboard and had a charmingly funky smell to it. But there was nothing. A little seasoning and some shallow frying couldn't do. I could already see myself now, curled up on my little couch, munching on it with half a can of already flat soda that I could not dare to toss out. A little celebration for me. Then I froze just as I stepped onto the pavement just before my front door. No. My door was ajar. Voices from within. My stomach dropped to my feet. With shaking hands, I pushed it all the way to be met with chaos. I counted every intruder, 6 in total in my little home, my family. Aunt Agnes's daughter, April, was in my fridge, picking up my dumplings and sniffing it, her face instantly contorted with disgust. It's spoiled. I watched her trash it without a single thought. Ajax was propped up on my little couch, putting out cigarettes on it. My aunt was in my kitchen, shuffling through the drawers like a thief. My uncle was munching carelessly on the imported cookies Raina had given me as a gift, probably the most expensive thing I had. Auntie Agnes's twins ran around the apartment, toppling over my cheap vase, my handmade ballerina figurines. My skin crawled, acid filled my veins, and still, I could not move as I watched the piece of my abode be trampled. But it was when the running twins made my desk tip forward, the same one with my mother's ashes, did I let my presence be known. I crossed the threshold, racing for the urn that was tilting, and caught it right on time. I wrapped my arms around it, heart racing a mile a minute. When I raised my head, All eyes were on me. The silence weighed a ton, as every eye surveyed me. My auntie broke the silence first, her words clipped and curt. "How can you barge in like that? Don't you have any manners?" I didn't give her words time to sink in. Let the scolding make me fold. "You are right, auntie. So rude of me to barge into my own home." Chapter 3. My Sister's Keeper. The whole room seemed to hold its breath as the words fell out of my mouth, sharp and sudden. Even my aunt froze, but she recovered quickly, her mouth twisting into a sneer. "Said the murderer." Ajax scoffed, amused. Her retort did exactly what it aimed to. It hit like a freight train, and my squared shoulders slumped instantly. I stole some composure and tried not to lose myself. My voice was resigned and tired when I spoke again. I had forgotten just how much energy it took to relate with people. "What do you want, auntie?" Ajax sat up, the odor of burnt tobacco making my stomach turn. My aunt's dark eyes narrowed as she crossed her arms over her chest. "Why can't we visit?" she demanded. "It's been 3 years. Are we not family anymore? You didn't even offer your own family a ticket to your games, so I figured we would drop in." I blinked slowly, cradling the urn closer to my chest. Auntie was as volatile as Wi-Fi when I decided to be productive, unstable, unreliable, and obnoxiously dramatic. "I am not a hotel," I said flatly. "You should have called, messaged me hell. You could have sent a messenger pigeon. So I could make arrangements. You're not 5 stars either," Ajax muttered, puffing out smoke like a chimney. He glanced around my studio apartment like it was an insult to him. "You still live with your aunt," I said. It wasn't a retort, just a statement. A fact he didn't like, which was enough for him to shut up. For now. "AJ is right," my uncle chimed in, wrinkling his nose like I wouldn't have to bleach the spot he was sitting in. His roomy eyes found mine. "This place is a fucking dump." My eye twitched, but he wasn't worth the trouble. I turned to my aunt again. "What are you here for?" I asked. "I already sent the 2,000 for this month, if I recall correctly." "So you've lumped your family into a monthly subscription plan? Did you give me a choice?" She gasped dramatically. "Are you saying I forced you to send your own family money? I didn't know you saw us as a burden." "Yeah, right. When I didn't fall for the bait." Her voice turned icy, and I knew what was coming next. "Your mother would be disgusted." Another hit, 2-0. But I refused to show it. I was not going to give her the satisfaction. "After the stunt you pulled with her funeral arrangements, that's rich coming from you." "You don't know anything," my uncle growled. My aunt cut him off quickly. "Gerald," my head snapped to him. "What don't I know exactly? Is it the fact that you came to my mother's funeral, called her Ivy instead of Iris, and pissed? What the hell was I doing, arguing with these people?" I caught myself in time and let the words trail off. I pinched the bridge of my nose and inhaled deeply. Then I turned around and placed my mother's urn in its rightful place. They all watched me like I was a circus animal as I retrieved my wallet. I pulled out a $200 bill and offered it to my aunt. "You should be able to find an inn for the night. I need my space. Tonight is not the night." They exchanged looks, even the twins. My aunt glanced at the money like it had shit on it. "Is that all you're giving us?" she asked. "Where's the rest?" I raised a brow. "The rest?" The couch behind me creaked as Ajax got up. My skin prickled when I felt his heavy hands on my shoulders. His voice was cold, menacing. "Don't play dumb." It was a threat. Auntie Agnes stepped closer, her eyes scanning me. She reached out and tucked my hair behind my ear, and I felt my skin crawl. "We know about the money." She smiled, but those dark eyes didn't soften. Her husband's stench wafted through the air as he rose, stepping beside her, further caging me in. $1 million, he said aloud. My stomach should have clenched. I should have shuddered at the not-so-subtle intimidation. But instead, bile rose in my throat as the smell of rotten onions assaulted my nose. I knew better than to expect anything else. I shrugged Ajax's hand off my shoulder and put some space between us. $1 million, my uncle repeated, dragging the words out like I was hard of hearing. His eyes gleamed with greed. I simply watched him. It's all over the news. Who would have thought that a girl throwing a ball around could bring so much money into the family? Auntie gushed, but her tone was condescending. Pretty sure the coach helped her out for something in return. Girls don't get that far in sports without opening their legs. "But money is money," Ajax added. My eyes narrowed. Their words bit deep, but I refused to react. You owe us far more than the measly 2K you send monthly. And again, what exactly are you planning to do with that sum? Stella has $1 million. That comes with obligations. That's how family works. Pretty sure I've never been family. And what exactly do I owe any of you? You killed. I killed my mother. I let her get hit for my miserable life. I killed your ATM machine. She was my only sister, she countered. Yet she worked like a dog day and night while you did nothing but be a fucking parasite. I knew the slap was coming, but I let her hit me. And I watched her face fall when I didn't flinch, didn't react. Take the money and get out. My voice was level, not raised. I had no time for their theatrics. No one spoke. No one moved. But my ears twitched when I heard footsteps coming from the only other room in my studio apartment. I knew it was her even before I turned around because who else would enter your bedroom without permission? I turned toward the sound slowly, already knowing who it was. The voice alone made my chest tighten, like invisible hands were squeezing around my lungs. Charlotte. And there she stood, leaning against the doorframe like she belonged there. Like this was her apartment. Like I hadn't clawed my way out of the gutter she helped dig. My heart lurched the moment my gaze dropped to the swell beneath her oversized hoodie. A bump, large and unmistakable. That numbing, soul-puncturing awareness that life had just delivered another gut punch because not only had he cheated on me. Charlotte sauntered over, arms cradling her belly, face smug, oily with triumph. "Oh, you owe us more than you could ever believe," she said again, slow and syrupy. My lips parted, but nothing came out. "I tried to call," she added with mock sadness. "You blocked me. Again. That really hurt, you know. But I guess grief does that to people. Or was it guilt?" My voice scraped its way up from my throat. "What is that?" I already knew the answer, but I needed the confirmation. Like needing to touch a wound to believe it's real. She beamed. "This?" She rubbed the bump like it was a talisman. "This is Caesar's baby. I think I forgot how to breathe." The promise ring on my finger started to go numb. "Yup," she continued, smiling like a child showing off a prize. "Your darling Caesar. The one you exposed me to. The one you vouched for. The one who ran the moment he found out I was pregnant." Her face turned brittle. "Left me to rot. Just like that. But now you have money, and you think you can go scot-free without taking responsibility?" Chapter 4. Where's my money? I wasn't sure how I was still standing, because I was certain the world beneath my feet had tilted. I could still hear them moaning, the bed creaking when I peeked into his room. Even now, I could feel my soul fracture as it dawned on me what I had discovered. Caesar might as well have tossed my heart into a meat shredder. Even now, as she relayed to me that he had fled, she remained smug. "Cat got your tongue?" I asked. The amusement dancing in her eyes made my throat tighten. I couldn't find the words. The pain was still too raw. Charlotte walked past me, facing the rest of them. "I told you she'd see reason. She's all bark, no bite." "Sweet," someone said. Maybe Ajax, maybe Gerald. My ears were still ringing. Everything felt far away, like I was watching it happen from underwater. "The shop will clear the transfer by Friday," Auntie Agnes said briskly, already in planning mode. "We'll split it clean. 25 each." Wait, Charlotte interrupted, twirling a strand of hair. "We can't not give her anything. She's dramatic. People will ask questions if she suddenly disappears from the scene without a dime." "True," Uncle Gerald agreed. "She might throw another tantrum, or worse, start talking to the press." "Fine," Agnes sighed like it was a chore. 10%. She can keep 10. Isn't that much?" Charlotte grumbled, glancing at me. "You know I have a little one coming." Her voice turned soft and my chest constricted painfully. "Why not 8? "No, but I think we should raise the upkeep to 3K. They all hummed in agreement. My body stayed still, but my mind curled in on itself. 10%. Of my money. Like I was a pet they'd agreed to feed. My mouth opened, then closed again. No words came. My voice was somewhere deep, buried under the betrayal, under the image of them, Caesar's hands on her skin, the sound of her moaning where I used to sleep. Charlotte's baby bump shifted as she sat beside Ajax, rubbing it like a trophy. I felt hollow, gutted, like my soul had been pawned off in pieces. 10%, so people wouldn't suspect. They weren't even stealing. They were strategizing. I was standing in a room full of wolves, and fuck was I exhausted. I ran my hands through my hair. Even the breath I took to calm myself was tainted by the poison they had brought into my home, back into my life. When I opened my mouth and finally found my tongue, it was laughter that bubbled out. Sharp, crooked, unhinged. They all turned. Charlotte flinched. I clutched my sides as the laugh tore out of me, harsh and breathless, like it was trying to crawl its way out of my ribcage. "What's so fucking funny?" Charlotte demanded, crossing her arms. "You," I wheezed, still half laughing, half bleeding rage. "I mean you, Charlotte." She stiffened. I didn't think. I did. "Oh, honey." I wiped a fake tear with the back of my hand. "You slept with my boyfriend, got knocked up, sabotaged your own sister just to end up wait for it abandoned." Her nostrils flared. "He didn't abandon me." "Right," I snorted. "He just vanished. Like your common sense. I don't believe you even ever had one to begin with." "Watch your fucking mouth, girl," my auntie snarled. My eyes narrowed on her, gazes clashing so hard I swear the air sparked. "No," I said, voice low, razor sharp. "You watch yours. You think because I kept quiet, I was dense? Nah, I was trying to be decent for my mother's sake. So now I am going to make myself exponentially clear. Never in your miserable lives will you touch my money." The silence landed like an anvil. You could have heard a pin drop. "What?" Charlotte shrieked. "You can't do that to me. It's your fault I am like this. You are so pathetic." I cut her off. Her mouth gaped open like a fish, but I simply turned to the rest of them. My words were plain enough. "Get out. You can't just kick us out. We are." Ajax's voice deepened, the way it did when he thought he could intimidate. "Losers." I completed for him. "You heard me the first time. Get out. The kids. Your kids," I countered. They were innocent in all of this, but I had goals to be met. I had to accomplish everything I had worked for. If not, every win would have been for nothing. A scream startled everyone. Charlotte. "Of course. I will tell them," she yelled in my face. This time I was genuinely surprised. "What?" "I know what you have been hiding. I have proof." Then it clicked. Why she had been in my room for so long. Everyone looked puzzled as my sister and I kept tense eye contact. Her lips curled into a smirk. "Just share the money and your secret is safe with me." My response was a whip as I tossed caution to the wind. "Fuck off." Charlotte's face crumbled before she shoved her hand into her hoodie pocket and retrieved the picture that stayed, locked in a box for a reason. She flipped it. Golden eyes beneath thick brows, dark hair that framed a tan face. The face of my nightmares, the goal of all of this. Gasps ripped out of their throats as she exposed it. Exposed me. "You can't be serious," my auntie gasped. "You kept a picture of him?" My sister's face was a mask of triumph as the room seemed to cave in on itself. It was sudden, a whisper in the wind, a whistle before impact. Ajax swung for my face with a closed fist, with enough force to cave in my skull. Yet, time seemed to slow. The inside of my wrist burned. My ears picked up the sound of all their beating hearts. My skin buzzed with the vibration traveling through the air. I felt my eyes narrow on 100 things at once. I noticed a speck of dust on my brother's eyelash. My hand shot out in an instant, wrapping around his fist, tight. What came next happened in a single fluid motion. First I ducked, grabbed his assaulting fist and twisted, then stepped forward before hurling him into the wall at full strength. The moment he hit the wall with a thud, the pictures falling off and onto his head, my eyes widened. Gasps of shock and fear rippled through the room, everyone watching with their hands over their mouths. Even me. I twisted my arm. My eyes darted to the crescent tattoo. My heart launched against my ribs, knocking the wind out of me at what I was seeing. It was glowing silver. My head snapped up when someone let out a piercing wail. Of course it was Charlotte. Her finger pointed at my face, her brow wide in horror, so visceral I could taste it. "Your eyes," she shrieked. "Your eyes are red." "They're glowing," she stuttered, taking a step back. The others followed suit. Even Ajax, still partly incapacitated, scrambled back away from me. "What the hell are you?" my auntie asked, step after step back. Like hell I knew. But it was better to pretend my eyes didn't glow when I looked too hard in the mirror. They scattered like roaches. Chairs scraped the tiles. Furniture clattered. Feet thudded across the floor. Someone knocked over the flower vase. I think it was Gerald, and water pooled like fresh blood beneath the shattered glass. Even Ajax got up with a grimace but limped to the door behind Aunt Agnes, who was scrambling to get her kids out. I just stood there, heart rattling. Charlotte fumbled with the door, her fingers shaking, mouth still twisted in that wail. She was crying, I realized. Big wet tears dragged mascara down her cheeks like punishment. Her hand landed on the knob, then froze. But it wasn't out of hesitation, it was terror. Ajax, slumped against the wall, went corpse white. His eyes bulged, like he'd just seen the Reaper tap him on the shoulder. I blinked. What now? I muttered, half exasperated, half ready to toss someone else into drywall. Charlotte took a full step back, her knees knocked. That's when I saw it, the gun. A long, dark barrel pressed against her temple like a whisper of death. Behind her stood 5 men, all armed. They were dressed in black. Nothing fancy, but the kind of black that didn't need drama to scare you. Tactical boots, gloved hands, empty eyes. The man in front had a scar that ran from his left brow across his eye and down to his jaw, like some divine punishment. He smiled, just slightly. Where's my money, Stella? Chapter 5. The Marked. The blood in my veins slowed to a crawl, my mind unable to wrap around the absurdity of the situation. I finally put my foot down about something pivotal concerning my life and my family, then the universe flips me off. Fuck my life. While everyone scrambled for safety, I could do nothing but stand there, mouth agape, watching it all happen. The last man closed the door behind him. The decisive click rang through the whole house. The message was as clear as day: we were trapped with these men. Everyone down! The tallest one ordered, scarred, towering, and lethal. But his voice only seemed to scare the kids into a horrible panic. I pulled away from their mom, screaming. Auntie Agnes was too horrified to even realize the twins were no longer with her. Her arms hovered above where her children should have been. My heart lurched. The last thing we fucking needed was to agitate men with weapons who looked like this wasn't their first time. If they could put a gun to a pregnant woman's head, kids were definitely not safe. I grabbed them as they darted past me, locking them in place in my arms, whispering softer than I thought possible given the circumstances. Don't move, or they'll hurt Mummy. They froze. Thank God. At least they stayed in place as the scarred man repeated his order, this time louder. His gun now aimed at Gerald's chest, cocking it. The reaction was instantaneous. I pulled the kids down with me, their chests meeting the ground with mine. Only Charlotte stood quivering like a leaf in the wind, blubbering like she always did when she couldn't manipulate her way out of a situation she didn't like. With all of us down, the man with a gun to Charlotte's head turned her around so her back was against his chest, pressing the barrel harder into her skull, making her grimace. The scarred man seemed satisfied. He looked around and nodded before he spoke again. His voice carried a lethal calm, the kind that warned you this man didn't need to yell to be dangerous. This isn't a robbery, he said, his tone almost polite, like he was delivering a business proposal. We're here for one thing. He paced slowly in front of us, his boots thudding like war drums against the floor. His eyes swept the room, lingering briefly on each person, as if weighing our worth or our weakness. Charlotte whimpered. The man restraining her gave her a slight shake. Quiet, he muttered into her ear. Scarface, because that's what my brain named him in the chaos, tilted his head. 2 people here have something I want, something I need. I'm sorry to rope the rest of you into this. His face hardened despite the apology. But bullets don't discriminate. He smiled again, all teeth and sharp edges. His canines were long. I saw the glint of them in the light. So do comply. He turned to Charlotte, then twisted toward Ajax, dark gaze locking on him. Where's my money, Stella? Ajax was shaking like a tormented cockroach on the floor. He couldn't form a word. Scarface made his way toward him. Ajax only shook harder, his pants darkening as pee leaked from him in a slow, spreading patch. The stench hit the air just as Scarface crouched before him. Even the armed men behind us chuckled under their breath. Disappointing, Scarface muttered, his disgust as acrid as the odor of piss. He slammed the butt of his gun into Ajax's jaw. A sickening crack echoed through the room as Ajax crumpled to the floor with a gargled yelp. The kids whimpered under me. I tucked them tighter, shielding their faces. My chest felt like it was vibrating with each beat of my heart, each breath too loud, too shallow. The man rose again. His voice was calm, which somehow made it even more terrifying. Charlotte and Ajax Stella cumulatively owe me a sum of $600K. During our last meeting, I gave them 2 months. Now, time's up. His words dropped like a guillotine. Charlotte let out a pathetic, strangled sob. Ajax groaned, his jaw probably dislocated. I hated that I still had it in me to feel bad. I've been a generous man, Scarface continued, pacing again. I even waived the interest by 0.5%. Can you imagine? And now here we are. He gestured to all of us. A room full of innocent people, because of your bad decisions. He turned to the man at the door. Take inventory. Let's see what we got. The one with a wolf tattoo on his neck stepped forward toward Auntie Agnes. Her eyes darted furtively around the room before they fell on me. She has $1 million, she blurted. She's Stella. Of course, I thought. They froze. Every single armed man turned in my direction, like predators catching the scent of prey. They all proceeded toward me. I glanced at my aunt just in time to see her flash me a satisfied smirk. It told me everything. If we can't have your money, that smirk said, you won't either. I raised my head tentatively at the men who now surrounded me. Stella? Scarface asked. As in the Stella of the Wolves, the Westbrook Wolves? I blinked. He knew me. His face split into a genuine smile. You're my little girl's hero. She won't stop talking about you. She hates sports but watched all your games. His grin widened as he extended a hand toward me, gun still in it. I flinched. He noticed and passed the gun to one of the others before gently pulling me up. He whistled as I steadied on my feet. Golden eyes indeed. He looked me over, curious, not malicious. You look like someone I know. Those eyes. His voice turned thoughtful before he seemed to push the thought aside. So, these disgraces are family to you? He asked, not unkindly, almost sympathetically. Referring to Ajax and Charlotte. I'll say, sorry I banged them up so bad. I couldn't utter a word. I let him speak, afraid to ruin the momentary pause from the chaos. He stroked his beard, ruminating. You know what? For you, we can come to a compromise. My brows flew into my hairline. Really? Of course. But I want something in return. My heart sank. Loan sharks were lethal. There was no telling what he wanted. You come to my little girl's birthday party. Spend a day with her. She's not the devil like me, nor does she look like her pops. He chuckled. She's a little ray of sunshine. Of course. I'd be honored, I replied, trying to keep the quiver from my voice. Thank you, sir. Nah, call me Jerry. He turned to one of his men. I'll waive $300K from the original amount. We give them 3 months. The men nodded. He turned back to me. Can I get an autograph for my little girl? He asked as one of the men retrieved a pen and paper. I smiled, relieved, and, despite everything, flattered. Of course, Jerry. I collected the pen he held out and asked, What's her name? Lillian, he supplied, voice almost reverent. After her mother. An ache fluttered to life in my chest. So much love in just the way he said her name. Beautiful, I murmured, putting pen to paper. Then suddenly my wrist was yanked. I looked up in shock to see Jerry staring at the crescent tattoo. Is this a tattoo? He asked, but his voice was hard now. My stomach twisted, but I let out a nervous laugh. Obviously, I chuckled, but he wasn't amused. He hesitated. His thumb brushed the mark. A beat passed. The others crowded in. I watched their eyes widen. My heart was in my throat. Could it be? One of them trailed off. Give me the scanner, Jerry ordered. One of the men handed him a device unlike anything I'd ever seen. He placed it on my wrist. A tingling sensation came first, then a loud beep shattered the tense air. She is, another began, trailing off just as Jerry looked up at my face again. I saw a flash of sympathy right before his expression hardened. Everyone get up, he ordered. We have proposition for you. Chapter 6, Soldex. A confused, tense silence followed. The announcement was deafening. No one moved. Get up! One of the men yelled, raising his gun threateningly. Everyone rose at the speed of light, their heartbeats strangely pulsing in my eardrums. What the hell was wrong with me? Jerry made eye contact with everyone in the room, his eyes so piercing they could have drilled a hole through cement. Gerald was a statue, his towering frame not daring to move a muscle. His eyes focused on a certain point on the wall. His wife was different, quivering like she had been caught in the cold. The kids' eyes darted to their mother. They were holding back tears. Charlotte and Ajax, the origin of the issue, were white as sheets, both sweating buckets. Everyone, Jerry's voice made us all flinch. Sit, he commanded. The reaction was immediate. Everyone found a surface to plant their asses, all looking up at him. Jerry surveyed us as though looking for something. He shook his head, inhaled through his nose, and exhaled through his mouth. He ran his hand through his cropped black hair. Name your price, he finally spoke again. No one spoke. I could tell they were all as confused as I was. Another tense breath. How much for Stella? He asked. My muscles seized, blood turning to ice. What? I muttered, my voice pathetically trembling. Cold dread clawed at my insides, painful tendrils gripping at my organs. But Jerry ignored me. instead looking at my family as though I was not sitting right there, like I was the commodity to be discussed. Shock was a spell that left everyone unable to speak for a time, but Auntie Agnes was the first to snap out of it. "What would you want this useless thing for?" Her voice came out snide and curious, all the former fear nowhere to be found. Jerry's brows knotted. "Useless?" he echoed, like it was the most absurd thing he had ever heard. He looked back at his men. They mirrored his confusion before it all seemed to click, and he rolled his eyes. "I guess we have some family dysfunction going on here. The black sheep is the only successful one. Nothing new. If only it were that simple. If only I were truly that innocent." He shrugged. "But I am not here to resolve family drama. I said name your price before you no longer get the chance to." The adults in my family exchanged glances. Long, loaded ones that said everything and nothing all at once. Auntie Agnes's eyes darted to Uncle Gerald. He gave the smallest nod, barely perceptible, but I saw it. My lungs could have collapsed. "Run." "No, don't. He'll shoot." "But if I stay." God, I couldn't breathe. "Define price," Uncle Gerald said stiffly, his voice hoarse like gravel. "Are we talking? Cash? Property? What sort of offer are we discussing?" My breath caught. They were actually negotiating. "For a human being?" I rasped, stunned, my eyes darting to the numerous guns in their hands before falling on the door. No one looked at me. No one even flinched, because they knew that unless I was crazy, I would not move a muscle. I was outnumbered, outgunned, in the bad side of town. My words meant absolutely nothing. Jerry cocked his head like he wasn't surprised by the question, but maybe amused by it. "I'm open-minded," he said simply. "You want cash. I have it. You want land, connections, silence, removal of your debt. Say the word. I am a person." My voice cracked out, hating how small I sounded. Maybe I could reach into somewhere in them, somewhere where humanity still resided. I regret so much putting my phone in my duffel bag. "You can't just, person?" Auntie Agnes snorted. "You stopped being that to us the moment you started acting like you were better than us." Fear mingled with anger for a brief moment, but it quickly fizzled out. "She's not," Charlotte snapped, her voice shrill and desperate. "She thinks she is, but she's not. She's just lucky." "Enough," Jerry interrupted. Not loud, just firm, like he was already bored. "Shove your opinions up your asses. You already disgust me." Ajax cleared his throat, sweat still trickling down his neck. "Can we get a moment to talk?" Jerry raised a brow. "Talk all you want, just don't waste my time." He stepped back, arms folded, as if this were a casual business deal and not my life being auctioned off in front of me. They huddled, whispered. Disgusting. Really watching them bargain over my head like I wasn't sitting right there. I tried to speak again, to stop it, to scream, but my throat was dry. My voice betrayed me. My body was frozen, shame anchoring me in place. After a moment, Uncle Gerald stood like the appointed family spokesperson. He cleared his throat and straightened his rumpled shirt. "The debt," he said, voice a little steadier now. "Clear the debt. And $200,000. My jaw unhinged slightly. 200,000. That was what I was worth to them. Jerry didn't blink. Done. No hesitation. That should have been the end of it. It should have stopped there. But of course, Ajax opened his mouth. He shot up like an eager puppy, nerves and ambition tangled in his expression. Wait, he said, his voice cracking. "If you agreed that fast, we probably undersold. I mean, she's clearly worth more. 500,000? Maybe more than that." Jerry tilted his head, amused. "Oh, look at the dissertation talking," he said dryly. "Didn't you just piss yourself 5 minutes ago?" Ajax froze, color draining from his face. Everyone turned toward him. No one said a word, but the air shifted, charged with a fresh wave of humiliation. Jerry continued, twisting the knife. "I should have known the moment I smelled it. You looked like a kicked dog when I raised my voice. And now you're negotiating?" He chuckled. "Jesus." He raised his hand, bored. "You had one chance. You blew it." Then, to his men, "Wrap it up." Ajax lunged forward, panicked. "Wait, please, just hear us out." Jerry didn't even glance at him. "Debt stays cleared. Cash, gone. Blame the pisser." That was it. Something in me snapped. A silent scream unfurled behind my ribs. My body moved before my mind could catch up. Fuck the gun. Maybe be a bullet to the leg would be too bad. Run. My legs kicked into motion, bolting toward the hallway. Run now. Get out. Go. The chair clattered behind me. My heart pounded so loud it drowned the noise in the room. I saw the door. I tasted freedom, but I didn't reach it. A hard hand caught the collar of my shirt, yanking me backward. I crashed into someone's chest, arms locked around me like a vice. "Let me go!" I shrieked, kicking, thrashing, wild with rage. "I'm not a fucking thing. I'm not." "Hold her," Jerry said simply. "She'll wear herself out." One of the men restrained me with brutal ease. Another secured my wrists behind me, tight, plastic, biting into skin. My lungs burned. My mind spiraled. "We will say she eloped. You have nothing to worry about." I could hear my auntie promise over my struggling. "No one will suspect a thing." A prickle, sharp and cold, before something flooded my veins. It spread like wildfire, slow at first, then suddenly, all at once, a strange heaviness, a traitorous calm, pooling in my limbs. My screams died mid-throat. The fight drained from my muscles, my knees buckling, vision swimming like oil on water. Distant voices warped and slowed, stretching out like echoes in a tunnel. I was slipping. "No, no, no, no," I tried to say, but it was a whisper now. My head lolled sideways, catching a blurry glimpse of Charlotte's face. She looked away. Of course she did. The last thing I saw before my vision finally blacked out was Jerry, still standing at the center of the room, still watching me as the darkness pulled me under. Chapter 7. The lichen auction in Aided. My eyes snapped open, panic surging through me like ice in my veins. I didn't need to look around to know something was very wrong. I tried to move only to realize I couldn't. I was locked in a sitting position, completely restrained. The moment I struggled, something cold and metallic bit deeper into my arms, making me wince. My legs were trapped. My neck was immobile. Even my forehead was pinned down by some unseen force, keeping my head frozen in place. I couldn't shift, couldn't scream, could barely breathe. My eyes darted frantically through the darkness, but it was useless. There was nothing but pitch black. My fingers twitched against the restraints, weak and trembling as fear sank deeper into my bones. I raised my eyes when I caught visible hues in my periphery. I narrowed my eyes to at least catch something, anything that would give me an idea of the hell that I now found myself. My eyes slowly adjusted, vision sharpening to take in throw shapes in the darkness. Then, my heart leapt into my throat. I was not alone, not even close. There were rows and rows of people seating in front of me, all unmoving, faceless, but I would be a fool not to know they could see me, and were staring right at me. My skin prickled with horror so acute, bile rose in my throat. I opened my mouth to let out a sound, but of course, I was gagged. The silence was far more eerie now, knowing that there were so many people here with me, none uttering a sound, simply staring right at me. A sudden burst of blinding light flooded the room, and my heart nearly launched out of my chest. I flinched instinctively, the searing brightness burning into my eyes after so long in the dark. But the restraints held fast, forcing me to absorb every agonizing second of exposure. Now I could see them, all of them. Rows upon rows of people seated in a towering amphitheater, faces obscured by masks of gold, ivory, and obsidian. All were clad in red hoods. Others tilted their heads as if intrigued. None of them moved. They just stared, watching, waiting. A voice crackled over the speakers, smooth and theatrical, the kind that slithered across your skin like something oily and cold. "Ladies and gentlemen," the voice boomed, cheerful and cruel all at once. "Welcome to the Midnight Lichen Auction." My stomach turned. I tried to scream again, thrashing harder, but the gag silenced me. The iron restraints dug deeper into my wrists and ankles, until I felt warm blood pooling beneath the cuffs. "Tonight, we are honored to present a specimen of rare pedigree." Footsteps echoed. They circled behind me. Then a man stepped into view, well-dressed, smiling, his face hidden behind a silver half-mask shaped like a wolf's snarl. His clothes were pristine and luxurious, pearls, beads that gleamed on every surface of his tuxedo. My stomach twisted painfully. He stopped beside me and placed a gloved hand gently on my arm. I recoiled, or tried to, but I couldn't move. "This one," he said, loud enough for the crowd, "was a challenge to acquire, but you know how we pride ourselves on exclusivity." He reached down. With a press of a button, one of my arms was released with a soft click. Before I could react, he yanked it upward, displaying my forearm like a trophy. I thrashed, but he held it firm. "Ah, there it is," he said, admiring my skin as though he were unveiling a masterpiece. He turned my arm slowly under the spotlight, revealing the faint, unmistakable glow of my tattoo. Why the hell was it glowing now? A collective gasp rippled through the room, like a wave of hunger barely contained. Yes, I see you recognize it. It's been a while since one of these crossed the veil into Umbra, our world, he purred, voice vibrating with greed. A genuine, marked one, bearing the lunar crest. The crowd leaned forward, some clutching data pads, others whispering behind fans and veils. Let's start the bidding, he said, releasing my arm and patting my head mockingly. Opening price, $10 million. My blood ran cold. The room erupted into a frenzy of raised paddles, glowing numbers, flashing signals. The amphitheater flickered with gold-lit bidding screens and silent gestures, predators in couture, cloaked in opulence, bidding on me like I was meat. 10.5 million, a deep voice announced from somewhere to my left. 11, another purred, feminine, laced with sadism. 12 million, and I want her conditioned. Conditioned? My body trembled. My breathing turned shallow as the bidding climbed higher. I yanked against the restraints, frantic now, my freed hand trying to tear at the gag, at anything. But before I could even reach it, the masked man was behind me again, clicking the restraint back into place. I was locked down once more. Don't ruin the merchandise, he murmured, soft enough that only I could hear. $100 million. The voice cut through the cacophony like a blade, deep, rugged, dangerous. The room froze. Every masked head turned toward the source, a man seated in the lower VIP section, posture casual, like he hadn't just dropped an obscene amount of money without blinking. If the moment weren't so vile, I might have laughed. Never thought I was worth that much. The auctioneer chuckled excitedly. It appears we may have our winner, ladies and gentlemen. But then, 200 million. My breath caught. The voice wasn't loud, but it didn't need to be. It carried, clear and calm, so self-assured. My heart slammed against my ribs. The masked crowd stirred again, murmurs rising like a brewing storm. 250 million, the first bidder snapped, suddenly tense. His voice wasn't so relaxed anymore. A edge had crept into it. 350, the order replied calm, untouched by the tension that saturated the air enough to choke. $500 million, the first voice barked, his mask slipping for just a second. Arrogance laced with desperation. A hush fell. Even the auctioneer hesitated this time. Well, he said, eyes gleaming behind his mask. We have ourselves a war, don't we? The tension hung thick. Then came the whisper that shattered it all. $1 billion, Ethan said simply. The room went dead silent. Not a breath, not a whisper, not a single flutter of a paddle. The auctioneer gaped. For the first time, he faltered. He stared up toward the high balcony box where the man I found wore the mask of an ivory wolf sat in shadow, one hand resting casually on the armrest. Then he straightened, cleared his throat, and laughed. Sold. The gavel hit the podium like a gunshot. To the Alpha of Wintercrest, the High Alpha. My ears rang. The world tilted. I had been bought by an Alpha? Chapter 8. To the North Vale Path. Anythings. The crowd erupted into polite applause, a slow, unsettling rhythm that echoed off the marble walls like the tolling of bells at a funeral. And I was the corpse. I couldn't look away. Not from the towering balcony above, where he sat, still, silent, unbothered. Unlike the others, he wasn't clapping. He didn't rise. He didn't celebrate. He only watched me. The overhead lights glared, but in the gaps of shifting shadow, I caught the faintest glint of ivory again, the curve of his mask. An elegant wolf carved from bone. His chin was set, lips unreadable. The rest of his face was hidden in dark velvet and impossible distance. But I felt his eyes, piercing, burning. My skin prickled as my body was yanked backward. The restraints hissed and clicked as they released in sequence. My limbs collapsed under me like broken scaffolding, and I crumpled to the floor, only to be seized by the masked handlers in red hoods and dragged off the stage like a product removed from display. The last thing I saw before the doors shut behind me was the man in the ivory mask finally rising to his feet. Two men seized me by the arms, their grips like iron cuffs. My feet barely skimmed the floor as they hauled me down a narrow corridor. I thrashed, twisted, kicked every ounce of panic fueling me, but it was like fighting against stone pillars. Their muscles were hard as bricks, unyielding. My struggles no more effective than the fluttering of a trapped bird. I might as well have been a fucking feather. Let me go! I tried to shout, but it came out muffled, strangled by the gag. The sound only earned me a tighter grip, my shoulders aching as they dragged me forward without pause. The hallway stretched on forever, a silent tunnel of polished black marble and glowing veins of silver inlaid along the walls. Each step echoed, sharp and final, like the pounding of a war drum. Then we stepped outside. The air hit me first. It was cool and metallic, with the faint tang of oil and ozone. My breath caught as my gaze landed on the spectacle before me. Rows upon rows of vehicles, an entire fleet sprawled across what could only be described as a private parking lot the size of a runway. Cars that looked less like transportation and more like weapons sculpted into art. Obsidian black hoods gleamed under the pale moonlight. Chrome edges sparkled like knives. I counted at least 50, maybe more, each one more monstrous and luxurious than the last. And parked at the center of it all, it was his. It wasn't just a car. It was an apex predator dressed in freaking metal. It was sleek, elongated, painted with midnight black that swallowed the light. Its insignia caught my eye. A wolf's crown carved from silver. I didn't recognize it, but felt in my bones. The back doors were already open, waiting. One of the handlers adjusted his grip and muttered under his breath, "Don't make this harder than it has to be." I glared, seething through the gag, every muscle in my body screaming in defiance. But my feet barely dragged against the asphalt, my body swinging between them like I weighed nothing at all. When they stopped, my stomach twisted. Someone was standing there. He was tall, broad, still as a statue, just by the open door. They didn't bother helping me in. They shoved me. I stumbled forward, crashing into plush leather and shadowed luxury. The door slammed shut behind me with a hiss, sealing me into silence. For a moment, I didn't move. The air shifted. It wrapped around me like a noose, heavy and suffocating, and I finally understood what prey must feel like when the forest goes silent. My skin prickled. Every instinct screamed. And then slowly, I turned. My eyes locked with his. He sat in the far corner of the car, legs crossed, gloved hands resting lightly on his knees. The ivory mask was gone, discarded somewhere in the shadows. He didn't need it, because no mask could ever match the face beneath it. He looked like he'd been carved from ice and war, every line sharp, every feature aristocratic and cruelly composed. High cheekbones, clean-cut jaw, a mouth set in perfect stillness. Hair was platinum blonde, slicked back with surgical precision, not a strand out of place. It caught the faint light in shards of silver and snow, gleaming like something forged, not grown. The color made him look ethereal or otherworldly, like he belonged to a different time, a colder one. And those eyes, they were glacial blue, pale, piercing, and terrifyingly unreadable. The kind of eyes that didn't just see you, but they peeled you open. He didn't blink, didn't flinch, just stared at me with the calm of someone who had no need to raise his voice to be heard. He was beautiful in a way that hurt, not soft, not kind, but devastating in the way a winter storm buries entire cities in silence. I swallowed hard, my breath catching in my throat. The car was moving now. The world outside blurred past dark windows, but I couldn't take my eyes off him. I didn't dare. And he said nothing. He just watched me, like he was waiting for me to break, as if he knew I eventually would. My words came out in a croak, unsteady as I felt. "Where are you taking me?" "Nothing," even as those cold eyes held mine. "What do you want with me?" I asked. "Please." He cut me off by turning away. My words died in my throat, but the silence only made it worse. My heart was pounding now, louder than the engine. I tried again. "You can't just ignore me." He didn't blink. "Look at me." "Nothing." I slammed my palm against the seat. "Say something. What do you want from me?" Still, nothing. He just watched the road ahead like I wasn't even there. Then the car turned. My stomach flipped, the smooth, manicured road away. The headlights cut through low fog, curling along a narrow forest path. I froze. No. No, no, no. I knew this place. I pressed a hand to the glass, eyes wide. "This is the North Vale Lunar Path. Why are we?"